I was questioned about my hat at a family event the other day by some random person in the park who told me that they felt it was inappropriate for me to wear an offensive hat to a family event.
Well, I think it's a show of your support for Border Patrol and everything that they do. So, because they're part of law enforcement, and I'm here representing law enforcement, I thank you for wearing that hat.
Welcome to Law Enforcement Today, the newscast where we take on topics pertaining to the world of law enforcement and the community that supports them in ways that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. And I think that this is a prime example. How do we get to this point in society where wearing a hat in support of law enforcement is apparently offensive?
You know, it's an interesting question that I don't have an answer to because, and we began talking about this when it comes to the public support for law enforcement and the things that we do. And I don't know if there's a lot of people out there that are aware of certain things that we do when we become police officers. One of the things we do is we take an oath of office, similar to politicians, everybody else that has a position in government typically does. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight about that, so the public realizes, every day officers come in, put their uniform on, put their badge on, go out into the public and do things to ensure public safety. Part of that is the oath that they took going into it. So our code of ethics as police officers, and this is essentially nationwide for the most part, one of the things that's part of it is, as a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression and intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. Now that's something that I take to heart, and I took to heart the minute that I took my oath of office as a police officer. Now, for individuals out there who see a man or woman in uniform, see somebody wearing a hat that says U.S. Border Patrol on it, showing their support for law enforcement in that particular area, I think they need to understand why we do what we do and what that takes each and every day to uphold the things that we took the oath to hold in the Code of Ethics for law enforcement officers.
This show has nothing to do with politics in terms of Democrat versus Republican or anything like that, but there is a conversation that we have to have, which is, can police officers be political in nature?
I think when we ask that question, police officers can exercise the same rights that everybody else has in terms of voting, in terms of using that way of expressing their political views. However, it's extremely important for us to be in a position that we don't take one side or the other, right? Well, our jobs are essentially to look at things from an outside view. We can't take one side or the other. The only side that we really take is the side that enforces the laws that are in place.
Hang on. So you said something that I think people might take exception to, which is that you as law enforcement officers have the same fundamental First Amendment rights as everybody else. I would beg to differ on that, and I'll tell you why. If you are in the community that you serve and you are off duty and you happen to be walking around wearing a Make America Great Again hat or a Bernie Sanders t-shirt, you're going to tell me that that's going to be acceptable with the department? Maybe yours, but I think we're seeing an increase in conversations across the country where people are so politically divided right now that officers are coming under attack for their own personal perspectives when they're out of uniform. So where is that line?
So you talk about off-duty versus on-duty. The reality is for law enforcement is we're never off-duty. We have an obligation to take action in certain circumstances. So the fact that our personal lives, we don't take a stand one way or the other. I do agree with you. There are officers out there who will take a stand, who will wear certain political views in a hat, on a t-shirt. But for the most part, I think for us to do our jobs effectively, we need to portray that neutrality, period, in our personal lives and in our professional lives. And the fact of the matter is we're never entirely off duty. We have an obligation. And when we took that oath to become a police officer, a law enforcement officer, those obligations don't just go away when we don't have a uniform on.
So what you're saying is you have the same rights as everyone else in terms of the ability to vote. The difference is that you don't really get to talk about it. You know, there was something that you read in here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it said protecting the innocent against violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on right now in society where you have certain big cities that we watch as you've got a divide between people who are peacefully protesting and then groups like Antifa or whatever coming in, and there is violence, and officers are being told by politicians to stand down. How do you as a law enforcement officer divide that line when you're being told in certain cities that you can't get in the middle of things?
Yeah, it's a tough question because I think in certain cities, the politicians may have more power to control the way that law enforcement is conducting themselves. But when you look at the root of it, the law enforcement officers are going to apply the laws that are on the books. And if they are unable to do that because that goes against a policy, then that's something that their administration probably needs to take up. Because when it comes to politics and law enforcement, you know, I think there's a lot of things that law enforcement officers don't have any ability to control, and that's how politicians dictate the way things should be done. And like I said, it all comes down to the laws that are in place. If the politicians, the legislators, if they want to change the laws, then they have that discussion, they have that open forum, and then they vote on those laws. And when those laws go into place, law enforcement officers enforce them. But the fact of the matter is we are going each and every day out into the public and enforcing laws that they've come up with that are on the books. We don't make the laws, we enforce them.
So over the last year or two, we've seen police chiefs across the country in different capacities, left or right, it doesn't matter. They'll literally stand on stage with lawmakers talking about proposed policy. Is that a conflict of the oath for them to be getting involved at the political level before legislation is passed into laws that they have to enforce?
No, because I think it's similar to any lobbyists out there, correct? So the law enforcement officials that do have a part and do have their opinions out in the open when it comes to a legislative discussion. You know, I think our higher ranking law enforcement officials should be giving their opinion on certain things that are coming down in terms of legislation. The issue that you brought up is that a conflict of interest? And I don't think so, because I think a lot of police chiefs are out looking for the betterment of law enforcement as a whole. And I know you can pick out particulars of certain opinions of police chiefs.
Well, I think it's a double standard.
Open.
And listen, I've got to take this topic on, and you're probably cringing inside right now because it's a tough topic. It is a very difficult one to say that if you achieve a certain rank in law enforcement, all of a sudden you get that fundamental right to your opinion in politics back. I mean, if you were to stand up next to the Attorney General of the state of Connecticut or a senator and say, you know what, I think it's time that we implement red flag laws or whatever it may be, you're going to be in trouble for it, but a police chief might not necessarily be. Now, I guess that probably brings us to the discussion about what's the difference between a police chief and a sheriff, right? Like, you could argue that a sheriff has a mandate because a sheriff is an elected position, at least in most states. Is there a difference between them?
You know, I don't know how to answer that question because I've only experienced police chiefs that have been appointed through a process, through a hiring process. So when it comes to the political aspect to a sheriff, I'm not sure.
What is the impact on the boots on the ground in terms of law enforcement when they get caught up in the middle of politics?
I think it's tough. Like I said, I think having that neutrality is important for us because when you look at our position and our profession, we're given the power that we're giving because of the public trust. And if we do anything to go against that trust and break that trust, then I think we're not doing ourselves a service. So when it comes to taking a political stand, we have to stay in that neutral position, because we could respond to somebody on one side of the opinion or on the other side of the opinion, and we would never want to portray that we were taking one side or the other. And we don't want to do it at the time that we're engaging with them, and we don't want to do it outside of that, because it could be called into question as to why we made a decision.
Well, it's funny, man. Every cop that I've ever known, it's almost like it's part of their training and their DNA to respond to emergencies no matter what that person looks like. So you could be, as a police officer, a hardcore Democrat or Republican, find someone of the opposite political perspective whose life is in jeopardy, and at no point are you stopping going, oh, well, hold up, I know how that dude voted. I mean, it's just built into you to be protectors. And what's scary is that we now have, look at what happened over the weekend in New York. You had yet another officer who was murdered, and it was tough for me from an outside perspective, who obviously can be a lot more political than any police officer, to see de Blasio up there talking about, oh, the life of this officer. Like, his policies have encouraged attacks on law enforcement. How do we as Americans begin to fight back against policies that are leading to the murder of officers, that are leading to lawlessness? At what point do we get a say?
I think you exercise your right by the votes that you place. And if you're researching who you want to vote for and looking at how they vote when it comes to laws that are going into effect that affect law enforcement, if that's your opinion, then you go and vote for those legislators that are pro-law enforcement. I think that's the only way that we are going to see a change in the way that things are done from a political standpoint, is the people who support law enforcement are put into office and engage with law enforcement to make this profession better.
What were to happen if law enforcement no longer existed in America?
I mean, absolute mayhem. We are out there ensuring public safety. We are out there doing our job to make sure that each and every individual has their rights protected and are protected against violence. And if that doesn't exist in the United States of America, then it becomes a lawless country where somebody who is not in a state to protect themselves is going to be taken advantage of. And I don't think anybody wants to see anything like that.
We have a ton of great guests lined up for the rest of this year here on Law Enforcement Today. We also want to make sure that you guys are catching some of the interviews that we do at the Whiskey Wall, some of the Behind the Uniforms episodes. We have some incredible men and women who have put their lives on the line, who have been shot, run over, stabbed in the line of duty, who come to us to share their stories, and we want to make sure to continue to give them a home and a platform. So, as always, we leave you with the faces of the officers that we've lost so far in the line of duty in 2019, set to Dave Bray's last call. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for sharing. God bless America.
Man down, I'm bleeding out. There's no time, so please hear me out. These are the last few words that I'd like to say to you all. This is my last call. Tell my wife I love her and that I won't be home tonight. Thank her for those long, hard years that we tried to get it right. And tell her I'll be waiting after she makes it through it all. This is my last call. But ask her to forgive me. Tell her I'm sorry. That I can't be the man that she's gonna be. waiting where the winter meets the fall. This is my last call. And tell my children that I love them. Oh yeah, that daddy always loved them so. And tell them to hold their mother tight and to never let her go. And tell them I'll always be watching, looking over them through it all. This is my last call. Tell him to fight for me. Do what's right for me. Choose the light for me. But don't ever forget me. Tell them I'll always be watching, and I'll be there when they fall. This is my last call. For those who serve beside me and who held that thin blue line, stand tall, stand strong, and hold your head up high. I'm sorry I let you down today, but please know I gave my all. This is my last call. So raise a glass for me. And kick some ass for me. Ring a bell for me. Send them straight to hell for me. I'd like to think I saved a few good lives, but I couldn't save them all. This is my last call. Yeah, I'd like to think I saved a few good lives, but I couldn't save my own. This is my last call.